the Natural Network exhibition's been beautiful, particularly in this room where it's all the marine animals, soft and hard. Congratulations. Then we will talk a bit about the other room, the other part of it. So we met about 5 years ago when you just finished COFA, and you brought these beautiful little ginkgo leaves. I think you'd been doing a whole lot of different sorts of work. And when we looked at the ginkgo leaves, that was the area that has exploded, hasn't it, for you over the last 5 years?
I still have a soft spot for ginkgo leaves, but they didn't make the cut in this show, did they?
No, they didn't, but they have featured before with Timeless Textiles. So congratulations on the last 5 years. It's been wonderful to watch your progression, and it seems to me you've just burrowed deeper and deeper into the work that you're doing. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, as you said, I've now been in Newcastle and been associated with Timeless Textiles for 5 years. This is the third time I've shown here, and the first time in the lovely new space here on Hunter Street. And for this show, I really wanted to make use of that space, the fact that there's two separate rooms, and although I wanted the show to feel very connected, I wanted to make the most of the two zones. So it's definitely been designed with sort of two separate themes and two separate sort of ways of working with colour. So as you mentioned, this room is all inspired by marine organisms, so things like coral and different mollusks, and there's shells, and also tube worms. There's a few pieces like the hanging piece here next to me that's inspired by those sorts of things. So I've sort of explored a few more areas. I've explored coral for a long time, but it's nice to sort of expand into other marine organisms as well. And the second room is largely focused on plants, and in particular leaf structures and the coloration of leaves, so ones that are decorative in their colours, and also how they change colour as they die and dry with the seasons.
And what is it about these structures that's held your attention now for 5 years, Meredith?
I think I'm really interested in structures, possibly because I'm building a structure when I'm sewing. I'm doing a drawing on a water-soluble base fabric, so once my drawing is complete, I wash away that base fabric, and if my drawing's not all connected, it's going to just fall to pieces. So I'm quite interested in structures, how things grow and how things work and how things branch out. And I've just always found that nature is just an endless source of inspiration for that. And there's so many similarities between the different elements. So you could look at a branch of coral or the venation in the leaf, and they're very similar structures in the way things grow and function. And I'm really interested in that, and I also just find it really beautiful. So I really like to sort of work with that and replicate that in my work.
And I've noticed a very subtle difference in your work, yes, over the last 5 years. I think that you've gone in for much more intricacies, it seems, as well as introducing new colours. I think when you first started off, you were very loyal to the corals.
I had my favourites, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think when I first started working with this process, I was learning the process and learning what you could do with it and how far you could push it. And obviously in working with the process, it's almost been 10 years now that I've worked with the process, and in the last 5 years worked with it very specifically. And in that time, I've gotten better at it, and I've keep refining the way that I work, and technically I think I've sort of been able to push it so that the work becomes finer and more detailed, and I'm constantly sort of rediscovering and refining how to work with it. And that's, I think, what part of being an artist is constantly pushing yourself and hopefully becoming a master of your craft towards the end. In terms of colour, when I first started working this process, I did definitely have favourite colours, and a lot of my kind of conceptual themes were strongly linked to the colours I was using. Now I'm exploring a lot more. I have a full rainbow of threads to work with at home now rather than just specific colour schemes, but I find myself coming back to some favourites. So for example, this entire room is reds and oranges, which is colours that I love, but I have started to explore a lot more in more different colours in the next room and in new works. In particular this year, I've really thrown myself into green. Green I've always found a difficult colour to work with, but I'm really enjoying exploring green at the moment.
I'd just like to take you back into when you do stitch and when you're getting into the structure of things. Do you tend to follow along with the life of a leaf or a life of a coral? Like, where is your mind going when you're building up all those layers. So
you mean when I'm physically stitching, or the process start to the end?
Well, whichever you feel.
Okay. Well, if you look at the whole process of my work in the last few years, although I've been inspired by natural things for a long time, in the last few years, sort of field work and a really kind of intimate connection with the actual thing that I'm trying to represent has become really important to me. So now I do a lot more field work. I like to go out on hikes, I like to go scuba diving, and it's really important to me to take my own photographs for reference, to collect specimens if I'm allowed, of course, and to work from those physical objects and do my sketches and designs based upon those, rather than perhaps other people's photographic records or things I could collect in a more indirect way. And now I really like to learn about what it is that I'm depicting. So I do a lot more research, and that's, I think, has strengthened the work, both aesthetically and conceptually. I now feel that I'm representing things in a much more true fashion because I have that research and knowledge under each piece.
And you're studying that, aren't you, at university?
Yeah, I have been. In the last few years, I've gone back to do some extra study. I think education is really important, and I want to keep pushing myself in that direction. So I've been studying a degree in natural history illustration, and that is very deeply seated in a more scientific basis, and that sort of fieldwork element and research and observation and understanding is sort of underpinning all that, and that's definitely come across into my work here with the embroidery.
And do you feel that you've got quite a lot of area to continue to explore?
Well, I'm not sick of it yet, that's for sure. No, I think, people keep saying you've been working with these similar things now for several years and the same process for several years, but both the content and the material I both still find very exciting, and I'm still finding new ways to work with them. So I think I've got a fair way to go before I've exhausted either area yet.
And aren't we lucky that you've still got a lot of years
Well, I hope so.
exploring in this? I'd like to congratulate you in your movement around Australia and then internationally. You're certainly becoming known for your beautiful artistry. So congratulations on that. And what I've watched is your level of high professionalism in doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
About professionalism? Well, I think it's like any business, it's very, very important to be professional, and I certainly strive to be professional and easy to work with and manage myself well, and I think I'm doing okay with that, or I try my very best. I have heard that some artists don't really have a very good reputation for being easy to work with or being reliable, and I definitely see my work and my practice. It is my job, so I need to treat it as such, and I need to give it that time and that.
So people who come and stand in awe of your artwork talk about the patience that you have to be able to sit for 7 hours a day and sometimes be on one piece for weeks on end. May not be continual, but you might come back to it. What happens for you whilst you sit in front of that machine, stitching every day?
Well, for me it's work. Whatever your work is can become repetitive and can require you doing the same thing over and over again, and the labour element of my work is an important part of the work, but I don't think that the labour is definitely necessary. All good things take time, and I think people see the work and appreciate the time and labour that is in it, as with many artworks and as it should be appreciated. So for me, yes, I do spend a lot of time sitting down at the sewing machine, and I do spend a long time with each piece, but that to me makes me have a much greater connection to the work rather than if it was just something that I could produce very quickly. I think the time is important.
And Meredith, this is the beautiful greens and some browny purples that you've been working with for the...
Different colours in this room, yeah.
Yes. I'd like to just find out from you if there's particular music, books, other cultural activities that really inspire you to think, I must go back into that workspace and capture
there's definitely things that I sort of love. I think when it comes to inspiration that comes from books or other resources or other artists even, they're often not things that are anything like my work, definitely material-wise. I tend to not be too inspired by many other textile artists, not to say they aren't inspiring, but they're just not my go-tos. In terms of books and artists, some of my favourite reference books are actually quite old illustrations. I think that my interest in natural history illustration comes through there. I'm going to butcher his name, but Ernest Haeckel, or Haeckel, is, I have all of his books of his plates, and they're really beautiful. And I have a lot of things like that, the books of natural curiosities and things like that I go back to, and I'm really interested in what they're depicting and also the style of how they do that. Music-wise, I used to listen to a lot of music when I used to sew, but then I used to find I used to get little snippets of it dancing around in my head, and it used to drive me crazy. So now when I work, I often listen to audiobooks or I listen to podcasts. So I've sort of got that intellectual side of my brain going while I've got the repetitive hand working movements at the same time. And I find that there's a good balance for me. I'm learning a lot while doing a lot. Those sorts of things work for me. Travel I always find really great for recharging batteries, especially if I can travel to an area that's beautiful naturally, you know, that has a wonderful environment that's different to what I've seen before. So they're the sorts of things that recharge my creative batteries.
And if you were meeting up with a young artist who just came out of COFA or wherever, what would be the sorts of guiding advice that you would give them?
I think the best advice for young artists, and I think some artists don't have this problem and have wonderful confidence, but I think so many artists who do so great work just don't have the confidence in themselves and don't take themselves or their work seriously. And I guess I've managed to make a living out of this, and it is definitely possible today to make something that you love and make it into your job. So if you take your work seriously, everyone else will take you seriously. But you have to put in the time and effort. What you put into your work and your job, it's what you will get out of it. So you can't just expect it to happen around you. But consistency and a good work ethic goes a really long way in any area, but definitely in the arts.
It's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk with you again. And once again, congratulations. I look forward to watching in all your movement around Australia.
In the next 5 years.
Yes, in the next 5 years. And thank you for showing here at Timeless.
Thank you for having me back, as always.